Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1, Citius Altius Fortius, written by T. Marcos. Caria leveled her rifle at the mouth of the alleyway, squeezing off another burst that took an oncoming bite in the thorax. She heard the gun click empty and the last shot and swore, bumbling for a reload. "They're coming through," she screamed. She didn't know if there were allies within earshot to hear, or if her panic call would simply draw more of the raiders. They had been caught off guard, without proper troops to defend this point. Her last magazine clicked home, and she cycled the action, aiming across the square. Already, there were more of the insectile raiders crossing towards her position. Again, they fell under her fire. But as a last bullet splattered bite in trails across the flagstones, there came another and another. Shaking with fear, Caria stood and drew her knife. You can't outrun a bite. Their long, chitinous legs blurred as they streamed towards her position, scrabbling over the gore-strewn plaza. And then, silence, as they froze and jerked their heads to stare behind her with an unsettling coordination. She couldn't bear to turn her back on the bite, but she chanced to look to the side just as a slim figure in matte black bodysuit dashed towards the raiders. It was small and had only 2 legs to Caria's 4. A human, she realized. They had come only days ago, a small contingent in response to their distress signal. Her throat clenched with panic as she realized the lone figure meant to fight the entire horde itself. "Wait," she cried out. "There's at least a half hive coming. You need to—" She cut off as the human flung itself at the lead bite, dwarfed by its 3-meter bulk, but so fast. Blades shimmered from its black-gloved hands, and the raider collapsed in a spray of ichor. The others hissed in outrage and swarmed closer, still unable to pin down the nimble attacker. But where speed fails, numbers may suffice. A scything claw tore into the human's shoulder, and its arm dropped to the ground. Caria suppressed a scream as she saw her hope of salvation wither, afraid to draw the bite's attention. From here she could see the lower half of the human's face below its eyeway, breathing hard, with teeth bared. No, not just bared, smiling, verily. It flourished its remaining blade and charged in. Seconds later, it came away with the twitching bite limb clasped in its hands. The human eyed it, then sliced it cleanly at the end and jammed it onto its own blood-slick shoulder. Caria chocked, staring in disbelief as the bodysuit came alive. Black webbing spread over the limb like a twining plant. The telltale shimmer of force fields danced over its surface. Thin strips of chitin fell to the ground as the limb cracked, stretched, compressed, tore. In seconds, it was over. The human raised another black-gloved hand and curled another 5 fingers into a fist. From the suit, a shimmering blade of force sprang up. It charged back in. The bite offensive had lost some of its enthusiasm. The raiders clearly disquieted by what they had just seen. Caria felt an odd pang of empathy for the bite on that count. There were still so many, however, and it wasn't long before another attack came scything down towards the human from the side. He caught the human on their newly regenerated arm and skidded off, throwing the attacker off balance for a counterblow that took its head. Twice more the human took injuries, and twice more it jammed the bite flesh against the wound. The black bodysuit regrew, and it fought on, increasingly impervious to the raider's claws. It was only a minute more before the last of them dropped, and the human ran over to her position, its legs blurring with a disconcerting speed. "Hey!" he called out, waving a hand, the bite hand. If she hadn't seen it come off, she wouldn't have been able to tell between the two. The human cocked his head, and she realized what she had been staring. "Oh, she stammered. "You saved me. Thank you." The human smiled again, but rather than a promise of death that it carried before, she got the sense that he was merely amused. "First time y'all seen one of us fight," he said knowingly. Caria didn't trust herself to speak. She just nodded mutely. He laughed and flexed his newer arm. "Yeah, we get that a lot," he said. "Don't worry, we mostly keep it to ourselves." "No," she said, finding her words at last. "No, it was incredible. You took down all those bites, But your body... Can you fix it? Fix? The man said, flexing his arm. Looks fixed to me. But it's not... Carrier trailed off, looking significantly at the dead bite around her. You know, not human. The man's smile faded, and he held up his hand with fingers splayed. My original arm got chopped off a while back, he said. Cyrillin, or one of another civil uprising deals, can't remember. Was the first one I lost. I still remember how easy it came off. He shook his head and sat down on the top of a column near her. Carrier was struck by how small he seemed now that he was closer. He looked up at her and smiled once more. We're not the most durable folks, as it turns out. Y'all are got freakishly alien muscles and bones and exoskeletons and whatnot. We tried to keep up with a straight tack for a while, but that gets expensive, heavy. He frowned. Pain in the ass to maintain, too. They sat quietly for several long seconds before Carrier mustered the courage to ask another question. How much of you is still human? She asked. The man turned to her and removed his eyewear, revealing one eye of crimson red and another of yellow, with an undulating, vertically stretched pupil. 100%, he said quietly. Like I said, we don't start out with much. Hell, I think they used to make jokes about how easy we broke compared to others. He held up his hand again to examine it. So we said, fine, we break, we fall, then we stand again. But not all of you, Carrier said. He laughed, shaking his head. You'll always get hung up on the meat. It's all it is, just meat. The human isn't the meat. It is a part that keeps getting back up. And sure, maybe we're a little different each time. He flicked a finger on his arm and gave a hard metallic tink and raised a spark. The durable bite chitin resonating slightly under the bodysuit. A little stronger, a little faster, a little less likely to go down. He flashed her another smile, and this time there was no trace of amusement in his expression. A little more human in all the ways that matter. End of story. Story number 2. That first and most terrible sacrifice. Written by Dragonson04. We thought the humans to be peaceful, calm, perhaps even friendly. Though they largely kept to themselves, there were a few that dared to venture far into the larger galaxy, and there were no major incidents with their wanderlust, beyond the occasional minor infraction involving not fully understanding local customs or laws. As their relatives, few wanderers became colonists, and small colonies were built on harsh worlds. Curiosity flipped to the other side, and became the norm for humans. With thousands of them being only a solar system away, many others of many species went to gawp at them. Surprisingly, they didn't seem to mind at all. They regularly took selfies with any who wanted. It almost became a game to see which human had taken one with the most different species. They were fascinating people for a long time. Their grasp of science leapt forward by a few centuries after they started to collaborate with more and more research bodies. Once certain concepts were revealed to be real, their curiosity ran away with them, as they put it. Things previously unimagined became theories, and more often than not, those theories were proven in the end under them. The bright beacon that was the galaxy started to attract unwanted attention. No one in the galaxy had ever seen or heard of them before. They claimed to come from a far-off place, not exactly a galaxy. It was hard to translate what they were saying. Their way of communicating was, well, alien. The human curiosity was piqued, and they tried to talk to our new visitors, to get to know them, to possibly befriend them, and our visitors were just as eager to get to know the humans. It was only after an entire human colony disappeared, and the corpses of thousands of residents of said colony were found with evidence of being vivisected and possibly eaten, that we all understood what they meant by getting to know the humans. In the metaphorical blink of an eye, the humans turned on our visitors, who they now called desecrators. The humans fought with everything that they had, and it was more than enough. The desecrators were being beaten by huge margins in every field of the battle they tried. They were quickly on the run, They were cunning and clever, though, and adapted to human strategy. More human colonies were lost, tens of thousands dead and desecrated. I will spare you the gory details, but let us just say it only made the humans even more angry. Humans started walking around with what they call the 1,000-yard stare. There was a certain light or warmth or spirit that seemed to have been drained from them. I asked a human friend about what was going on.
What's wrong with the humans? Why is there no light in your eyes any longer?
We grieve. No amount of time can heal the wounds that they have given us. Our lost families, friends, and neighbors can never be replaced. At first, we were curious about them, and now we know exactly what they are. And since our curiosity has been fully satisfied in the most terrible way, all we feel now is a need for vengeance. Curiosity. That simple thing is what made humans human, and that is the first thing they sacrificed under the hammer of war. They forged into something dark and terrible, something so antithetical to curiosity. Vengeance. No longer caring, no longer wondering, no longer wanting to learn or cooperate, simply wanting to destroy that which they consider to be their enemy. Truly, a terrible cost for ones who were driven to the stars by the desires to experience the first and leave the second far in the past. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the Tier 5 members, Marky, Cam Maxwell, Caspar Arnolds, Oakfield, Lord Azrakul, and It's Difficult to Pronounce. Thank you very much.